You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now.
In equal measure to prioritize the economic needs of individuals and families in America.
Candidates make their final pitches to voters with just 12 days left until the election. What could be the top factor in determining the outcome as the polls still show a neck-and-neck race? Then the effects of a deadly E. coli outbreak are expanding. The product that's now being recalled after McDonald's removed its quarter-pounder hamburgers from menus. And a crippling strike extended. Why Boeing workers rejected the latest contract offer and what's next for the struggling company. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. The days are down to just a dozen until voters head to the polls as the candidates head to the battleground states to cement support and convince independents they're the most fit for America's top job. Tonight, Harris at a Get Out the Vote rally alongside singer Bruce Springsteen and former President Barack Obama. Earlier today, she criticized her opponent, who turned down a chance to both debate her and appear with her at a CNN town hall.
Clearly, his staff has been saying he's exhausted, and the sad part about that is he's trying to be president of the United States, probably the toughest job in the world, and he's exhausted.
Tomorrow, Harris heads to Houston, Texas, where she'll be joined by some more star power, this time by singer Beyonce, who gave Harris permission to use her song Freedom on the campaign trail. Trump, meantime, he is stumping out west in Arizona and also plans to be in Nevada, which is where he's expected to attempt to appeal to the state's Asian American population, again showing his interest in eating into demographics that traditionally lean liberal. As for the polls, Donald Trump has an advantage over Kamala Harris in the battleground states. A Real Clear Politics average of polls has the former president ahead by 0.9 percentage points. That puts many of the polls within the margin of error, and the results really will come down to voter turnout. Meantime, tonight, Florida suing the Justice Department for blocking its investigation into the second alleged attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Florida says federal officials told state investigators they must suspend their criminal investigation because of a statute in the law being used to prosecute Ryan Routh that suggests Florida can't do its own investigation until the federal prosecution is over. Routh has not been charged in state court, and he's pleaded not guilty to the federal charges. The Department of Justice declined to comment on the lawsuit. And newly released 911 audio from the moments after a gunman fired shots at the now infamous Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, is giving us firsthand accounts of what it was like for people on the ground. The National News Desk's Atra Al-Nashar reports.
What happened?
Gunshots at the Trump rally.
Yep,
Gunshots.
the police are on the way.
Well, you better get over here quick.
911 audio of the moments panic set in at the Butler Farm Show grounds on July 13th.
They just tried to kill President Trump. You might want to make a note of that.
We're now able to hear this audio because several news outlets sued Butler County to release it. Rally attendees terrified about what just happened to former President Trump and the people around them, like this woman whose husband was shot.
Hey, this is Allegheny County. I have a female on the line. Her husband was shot at the Trump rally. Go ahead, caller.
Paramedic serviced him. I called Butler Hospital. He's not there. They told me to call 911.
Please don't hang up.
And this woman.
Hello, we have an emergency.
Okay, what's
We're at the Trump rally. We're in the field. We have a 90-year-old woman down.
You conscious right now?
She is. She doesn't know where she's at.
The release of this audio comes as multiple investigations, including an independent panel, a Senate committee, and a House task force pieced together what happened. Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Mike Kelly, whose district includes the site of the shooting, leads the bipartisan House task force, which just released its interim findings on the actions of Secret Service and local law enforcement leading up to and during the shooting.
Everything you look at that day was out of place from where the perimeters were set up, where how we were going to communicate.
Retired Secret Service Special Agent in Charge Frank Loveridge.
We are an agency in crisis.
that we don't have the resources, the human resources, to staff properly all of our protective operations.
He says he wants to know who in management is responsible for these systemic issues and not being more strategic with technological assets.
There's cameras, intrusion detection that is out there, cameras with infrared.
Now, Congress recently approved additional funding for the Secret Service, but experts and investigators agree that money alone can't solve all the shortcomings at the agency that allowed now 2 attempted assassinations of former President Trump.
And Atra, what are we learning about the Secret Service's struggles with recruitment and training right now?
Well, former special agent in charge Frank Loveridge, who you heard from there, and other sources I've talked to about this, say that the agency should be recruiting differently, shifting their efforts to attract personnel from, for instance, elite military and law enforcement units, and then to make sure agents are actually trained on a regular basis. Loveridge, who served on Presidents Bush and Obama's detail, says that sometimes an agent, get this, will have gone 6 years without new training before they're assigned to a top detail like the president's or vice president's.
Wow. Well, some changes are for sure in store for the Secret Service. Thank you so much, Atra, for that live report out of Washington, D.C. And this just in, tomorrow, Los Angeles prosecutors will ask a court to resentence convicted murderers Eric and Lyle Menendez, opening up the possibility of freedom after 34 years of imprisonment. The brothers admitted they shot their parents to death in 1989 following years of alleged sexual abuse. Many, but not all, of the Menendez's relatives have advocated for their release. Pregnant 21-year-old Jacqueline Perez has been found alive in Mexico after being kidnapped from her apartment in Washington on October 13th. Police say a 24-year-old suspect is in custody, and Mexican and Guatemalan authorities are now working to return Perez to the United States.
What we believe is she was caught up in some illegal activity that she was not involved in. She was taken by gunpoint from her home, and for whatever reason, they released her in Mexico.
Police are trying to find other people who they believe are involved. Tonight, another $135 million in aid will go to Palestinians in Gaza. Secretary of State Antony Blinken making that announcement while in the Middle East, reiterating the need for Israel to do its part by opening more humanitarian corridors for that aid to get in. It comes as the UN sounds the alarm on the desperation in northern Gaza, experiencing a life-threatening shortage right now of medicine, food, and water, with the only functioning hospital there on the brink of total inability to care for any injured civilians. While in Qatar, Blinken also announced that stalled truce talks would resume in Doha without providing real clear details on who would be there and when this would take place.
All I can tell you is what I said earlier, and what the Prime Minister noted is that we do anticipate that the negotiators will be getting together in the coming days.
Taylor Farms, the food distributor for McDonald's, has recalled bags of their yellow onions, both peeled and diced, following preliminary data from the FDA linking onions to E. coli contamination at some McDonald's franchises. Taylor Farms says their investigations has not found any traces of E. coli in the recalled items. The CDC says at least 49 people have gotten sick, with 10 hospitalizations and 1 death connected to McDonald's Quarter Pounder hamburgers. A rare tick-borne bacteria has been confirmed in Illinois for the first time. In Lake Country, one patient has been diagnosed with EME. Now, that's the bacteria that can cause serious illness if not treated very quickly, and it can be fatal. EME was first reported in Wisconsin in 2009 and has also been seen in Minnesota. Health officials in Illinois are warning residents to avoid wooded, bushy areas with high grass and to use proper insect repellent when outside. Tomorrow marks the first anniversary of a horrific mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. The gunman opened fire at a bowling alley and a bar, killing 18 people and wounding 13 others. It was the deadliest mass shooting in the state's history. The National News Desk's Greg Lagerquist has a rare look at how those affected by the tragedy are doing 1 year out.
October 25th, 2023, youth bowling night at Lewiston's Just-in-Time Recreation, while nearby, a cornhole tournament is getting underway at Schmenge's Bar and Grill.
We're just having a normal night of cornhole.
Ben Dyer was setting up a game with friends Ron Morin and Billy Brackett. Moments later, both would be among the 18 killed when a lone gunman's bullets ripped through both locations just 12 minutes apart.
I looked him in the face when I lost my finger. He saw me pick my head up and went to shoot me in the head. And I put my hands up like this and ducked. I was fortunate that I survived. I really shouldn't have. For some unknown reason, I'm still here.
How many friends did you lose that night?
Everyone in the cornhole community was a friend of mine.
Max Hathaway among them. A young father, he was partly there to celebrate the college diploma he had just gotten in the mail that day.
You have people come into your life and the light shines when they're gone, and 100% him. We talk to him all the time. I mean, I kiss his obituary every morning.
Over the past year, the Lewiston mass shooting has prompted hearings and debate over missed warning signs, gaps in mental health, gun control, and law enforcement communication. The shooter, an Army reservist, had been briefly hospitalized in New York just weeks before for acting erratically.
Crisis intervention.
Congress now pushing the Army to better track mental health and potential brain damage for those working in munitions. And just a week ago, about 100 survivors and victims' family members filed a new lawsuit against the Army and others, hoping to force more answers.
This community, this state, our clients deserve accountability.
Elizabeth Seal is among them. Her husband, Joshua Seal, a member of the deaf community, died at the cornhole tournament.
Once justice is served, I feel maybe we can start that process of healing. But in the meantime, we're going to stay Lewiston strong.
That's how Ben Dyer feels. He and his fiancée, Keela, plan to honor their friends who died this Friday. But next year, they plan to take back October 25th and get married on that day.
You know, we've been through hell, but we've made it, and let's move forward.
And that was Greg Lagerquist reporting. Coming up, why selling old furniture or clothes could become harder very soon, and what you need to know about the new rules in place. Then there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, but an existing drug could have the potential to prevent the degenerative condition. And later, what parents are demanding from a California school district after a teacher was assaulted 4 times by a first grader. We'll be right back. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union are back on the picket lines today instead of in factories after 64% of union members rejected the latest offer by Boeing to end a 6-week strike. The deal offered a wage bump of 35% over the next 4 years, but a sticking point for many workers was that the proposal did not restore a traditional pension plan.
Took the pension from us, so we don't have that anymore. I don't think we're getting that back this time, but they're just going to have to come a little better.
The ball's in the company's court now. They have to decide what they want to do, how long they want this to last.
Union reps say they'll see when they can go back to the negotiating table with Boeing. A Boeing spokesperson says officials do not have a comment on the vote. The labor standoff comes during an already challenging year for Boeing, which has come under huge scrutiny over the quality of its jets. An abortion ban in Ohio has been struck down by a county judge, ruling today that the law is unconstitutional because of a reproductive rights amendment that voters approved last year. The 2019 law restricting most abortions when a heartbeat is detected had stopped being enforced while it was being challenged. It only briefly went into effect in 2022 when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Funerals were held today in Turkey for victims of yesterday's attack at the headquarters of its national aerospace defense company near Ankara that killed at least 5 people and injured 24 more. This as Turkey now wages a retaliatory military campaign on Kurdish groups it blames for the terror attack in both Syria and Iraq, where the damage thus far has claimed the lives of at least 12. The PKK Kurdish group, designated a terrorist group by many countries, has been fighting against the Turkish state since the 1980s for greater rights for the country's significant Kurdish minority. Unemployment benefit applications, they are dropping according to the latest data. Jobless claims, which reflect layoffs, fell by 15,000 last week to 227,000. North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee, they saw the biggest declines. Economists say the recent hurricanes are making it much harder to evaluate the labor market. That being said, the total number of Americans receiving jobless benefits hit the highest level in nearly 3 years. Continuing claims for the week of October 12th increased by 28,000 to 1.9 million, and that could mean it's been much harder to find a new job. Mortgage rates are up again. Freddie Mac saying today the average 30-year mortgage rate increased this week to 6.54%, a nearly 3-month high, and it comes in spite of the Fed's recent rate cut. Selling a couch or old clothes might become a little harder because of a provision in the American Rescue Plan that drastically lowered the threshold for reporting third-party payments across platforms. Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold, joined the National News Desk this morning to explain who would be affected and what they should expect in the new tax year.
The IRS is saying that they expect 44 million forms to go out to people, many of whom won't be expecting it. Because yes, it will be those small businesses that are using platforms like Etsy or eBay to make sales, but it will also be people that are using Venmo, PayPal, Apple Pay, even things like StubHub or Ticketmaster to sell tickets to unwanted concerts or sporting events that they can no longer attend. If you're using these platforms, you could potentially be getting 1099-K forms from those entities who are also, by the way, sending those same forms to the IRS. So the IRS will be aware of these transactions, which may or may not, in many instances, be taxable events.
And you can watch the entire interview from this morning, as well as all of the other interviews we conduct at thenationaldesk.com. The active ingredient in the diabetes and weight loss drugs Ozempic and Wegovy showing new potential for treating Alzheimer's disease. A study in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia looked at people 60 and older with type 2 diabetes and at least one other condition like heart disease. And it found those taking semaglutide had a much lower risk for Alzheimer's than those on other diabetes drugs. Also, we're learning tonight, the antidepressant drug sold under the brand name Cymbalta is being recalled due to the possible presence of a toxic chemical. The FDA reports impurities were found in the medication, which may increase cancer risk. The agency says patients should stop taking the medication and talk to their doctors about concerns. And in your health alert tonight, how the economy is putting stress on our healthcare choices. Medical reporter Liz Bonus breaks down a new report that reveals how.
Hey there, hello to you. The report shows 1 in 3 of us plan to skip doctor's appointments to try and save money within the next year. Of the doctors we intend to skip most, the dentist. That's partly because we often don't have the experience Lindsay Madden says she had growing up. So when did you start going to the dentist?
Well, interesting. My mom was actually a pediatric dental assistant all my life. And so from an early age, I was always in the dental chair and learning the importance of dental health.
Dr. Gregory Pohl, Kentucky's Buttermilk Family and Cosmetic Dentistry, says most of us only see a dentist in crisis.
Dentistry is always about 3 things. You know, it's fear, anxiety, cost, and then trust barriers. So those are the things that inhibit people from coming. So I'm not surprised that that number is what it is.
The report found 32% of us plan to skip going to the doctor within the next year because we are worried about healthcare-related expenses. Skipping the dentist comes first, followed by the eye doctor, your general practitioner, your gynecologist, and the dermatologist. But before you skip what you think is a routine cleaning, Dr. Pohl says consider this.
Generally speaking, if you have good dental health, you have good general health.
It's likely due to the fact that routine cleaning, Dr. Pohl says, reduces risks for inflammation and infection.
We try to avoid that if we can. And how do we avoid that? By 6-month checkups. You know, we catch something before it's a problem.
And finding something before it's a problem is cost effective too. For example, this blue light screens for early cancer risk. And early intervention not only saves lives, it saves money. So as an adult, do you still go?
Every 6 months, of course.
And tonight, many Americans are still in debt from last year's holiday season. When we come back, the best ways to prevent falling into that trap yet again. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in California with concerns about violence in schools.
Madeline Cardoza, a first-grade teacher at Frontier Elementary School in Hanford, says she's been assaulted several times by the same student. We're told this is her 4th black eye by the same student, and this last assault also resulted in her getting a concussion.
You guys have done nothing for this staff. There's no safety training. They can't hold the child down. They can't defend themselves. They can't defend their other students from being assaulted.
Allison Coli, the president of the Pioneer School Association, tells us this is not the first time something like this has happened. Now parents are asking for the district to make a change, not only for the teachers, but for students who are witnessing these attacks.
Mykeria Woodfolk, a former homeless woman who now lives with relatives in Pahokee, came to an event at United Methodist Church of the Palm Beaches. The Wednesday event urged churches to look for ways to house the homeless. The latest homeless count done in January shows Palm Beach County has more than 2,100 homeless people. Under a new law, cities and counties are banned from allowing homeless people to sleep overnight in public places. And starting January 1st, cities and counties that don't comply with that law can be sued. So some say this presents a big opportunity for churches to step up to the plate to help.
I think they're going to be the key. They have resources that the county doesn't have, our governments don't have.
You might still be feeling the financial strain from last year's holiday shopping season. According to NerdWallet, nearly 30% of credit card users are still working to pay off last year's debt. So what can you do to avoid piling on to what you're already paying off? Well, the first may seem obvious, but you'll want to avoid overspending. Making a shopping list and sticking to it can help. You can also create a budget to help you stay on track when you're on the search for that perfect present. Plus, track your purchases. Go ahead and cancel subscriptions you aren't getting a lot of use out of. If you don't really need it, it could free up some extra cash for a few presents. It's also a good idea to start cutting small things out of your day-to-day spending. Maybe try making a coffee at home and skip the Starbucks drive-through a few times a week. Those coffees add up.
Coming up, it is easier than ever to match your pet. How people are reacting to new Crocs for dogs when we come back. Crocs made it possible for pet parents to fulfill their dreams of finally matching with their furry friends. The company creating dog boots. And before you laugh, the new drop did not flop. In fact, the company sold out of the boots for pets in a single day. The new product launch was part of the company's Croctober promotion. The company said it was the most requested product in the company's history. The doggy boots, which come in green and pink, were priced at $50. And I don't know, now we just need to see matching pet parent Christmas pajamas. That'll be next, right? And that does it for this edition of the National News Desk. Join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Amira David, and thank you so much for watching.